Get ready. Helena Hustle is now live. Here, we will showcase successful leaders in business, athletics, healthcare, and all things that make Helena a great place to live. Join Dr. Daniel Bridge, owner of Endurance Chiropractic, as he searches out amazing individuals who are making a tremendous difference in this place we call home. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired with the Helena Hustle podcast.
Are you enjoying the warmer weather?
Yeah. I mean, I love skiing. And so I was a little bit, I want to get up on the ski hill. They've been making snow, so that's good.
Oh, yeah.
So we can go up there. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Days like today probably don't help them out too much.
No.
Nice sunny day out.
They're just like 2 steps forward, 1 step back probably.
Yeah.
Getting their snow made.
So you grew up where?
I grew up in central Montana, really tiny little town.
And where did you grow up skiing?
I did. I started skiing when I think I was like 2.5, 3.
Mm-hmm.
It was either Showdown.
Oh, okay.
Love Showdown. It's such a great family hill and is about an hour and a half from us, and is either go to the little daycare they had at the time or at Showdown, or ski. And I, for some reason, hated the daycare. And so I would ski.
They have a daycare?
They did.
Okay.
Like 32 years ago.
Yeah. I love Showdown. I grew up skiing Showdown, mostly
Did
Teton.
you really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Shelby. It's farther than it is from you. It was, I don't know, a couple hours, but we would do there's a little ski hill outside of Shodo called Teton Pass.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where we would go a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you're from Montana.
Yeah, I'm from Shelby.
Oh, okay.
Yep, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So I was excited to move back here and be by the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, Whitney, let's, before we get too far going, let's start with your 2 truths and a lie.
Okay. So, I was on an episode of Yellowstone. I have ran 2 full marathons, and I have a really great Mickey Mouse impersonation.
Okay. I'm going to say that the lie is the Yellowstone episode.
Nope. I was on an
episode.
On it.
Oh,
yes.
Cool.
As an extra.
Uh-huh.
On the most recent season, first episode. And I got to meet all of the main cast. Not meet, I guess. See all of the main cast except for Rip and Casey.
Okay.
Who were, the most gorgeous. But it was really cool. It was a cool experience.
What was your role?
I was just a campaigner, I think is what they called me. But it was when Kevin Costner's character, John, was doing his governor acceptance speech. And I kind of broke some rules and finagled my way towards the front. And I was in the second row. So I was very close to the action.
And so are you in the episode?
Like my eyelashes. And I was standing directly behind a man in a blue shirt with a black cowboy hat, and you can see him a bunch, but like the hat, everything just kind of hides me.
That's fun. Would you do it again if given the opportunity?
Probably not. I did have an opportunity to do it again. And as another extra for some other scene, and I declined. It was a long day. It was like 12 hours on our feet. It's very, very hot. Because I think with the sound, they can't have air conditioning going.
Okay.
And there's like 300 extras in there. And they were filming way out in Missoula and south of Missoula. And so that's a haul from here. And
do they bus you, or do you drive your car to the next location?
We drive. Yeah. It was cool to see the background of how it all happens. And that's what I was after. I just wanted to see what goes into it, and then seeing the episode come out and how, Hollywood made their movie magic happen. That part was fascinating. Just the logistics and processes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, cool. So tell me about your marathons.
So I ran 2 marathons. One was the Missoula Marathon, and I was 19. And then the other one was when I was a senior in college, and it was the Denver Marathon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you grow up running?
I have always been active, and I was, growing up as Class C school, you're involved in everything.
Everything, yep.
Until my senior year, I did not do track because divisionals or districts coincided with the AP testing. And so I had to decide sports or academics, and I wasn't going to go run track in college. So I didn't do track and I did the AP testing instead. And one of my track coaches made a snide remark
Did he?
about like getting out of shape, and I'm a very stubborn person. So I was like, well, I'll show you.
Yeah.
Started running that my senior year of high school.
So that was, oh, you started as a senior.
Started running like that.
Yeah.
Those kinds of distances in track and whatnot. All the other years I was like a jumper and sprinter. But started putting on the miles then.
It's funny how like sometimes a negative comment can fuel you more than a positive one. I know that's how I was when I was I think a freshman. I decided to go out for track. I had never done track. And I remember this kid, a grade younger than me, said, "You're not going to be any good."
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm like, huh. So anyways, on those hard workouts, like I would always think about that. I didn't even have to try. And that was my fuel.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good motivator, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah. Now you, so for people who have seen the podcast in the past, Whitney's husband, Joe, was a guest. He might've been my first, or he was one of my very first episodes. I think he was my first. Yeah. So Joe Mitchell State Farm, and you run the marketing department. Is that right?
I do. It's a one-man department.
Yeah.
One-woman department.
How long have you guys been in business for?
Oh gosh, I think he opened his doors in 2016, fall of 2016. So going on 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you doing the marketing back then?
Not really. I would make social media posts once in a while, but I've always been in marketing. That's been my career for the last 15 years.
Oh, okay.
It's been a while.
Did you study that?
A PR and poli-sci.
Okay.
So very similar. And yes, got in marketing right after college graduation, and just have gone from role to role in that field.
Was that always the plan? Did you know you were going to be running the marketing department?
No, but, COVID shook a lot of things up, and I had a wonderful job right before going to the agencies full time, and, the best boss I'd ever had, and really enjoyed what I was doing. But we also kind of got to the point with our family, the finances, the age of the kids. Our oldest was going into kindergarten, and we were needing flexibility for school pickup and drop off and activities, that we decided, okay, well, if we just steer the ship in the same direction and take my skills and bring them over to the agency and create this marketing role.
Well, that's great. You do a great job.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And then congratulations on Business of the Year.
We did in February.
Yeah.
The chamber awarded us with that, and we were very surprised.
Yeah.
I told Joe to put some talking points together, or I would put some talking points together for him, and he said, well, then we're not going to win. There hasn't been an insurance company or individual agency who's won that for like 20 years. And we were up against some really great businesses and bigger businesses in town. So we were pretty honored and tickled about that.
That's awesome. And it's such a good team effort. I've known Joe. Joe was one of the first people. So my story with Joe is, I hadn't been open for very long, not really long at all. Cause we did the ribbon cutting, and then I was talking to Joey, and she mentioned Joe. Do you know Joe Mitchell? Have you heard of Biz to Biz? And no. And so anyways, she's like, oh, I'll call him. And I remember my first thought was, oh, he's busy. He's not going to want to come over here. And then like an hour later he walks in, he's, introduces himself and invited me to come. And that was good for me because being here in Helena, I didn't know hardly anybody, and, kind of nervous and taking on a big new, business, and it was all scary. So that was like, he was one of my first friends here in Helena. So that was really big for me. So I'd known Joe for a while, and, Joe's very gifted in so many ways, and he would talk about you. And I always kind of just thought he was being humble, like, hey, Whitney does all this stuff. But then I met you, and I see how much you actually are doing, and all of the good ideas and the execution that you have with all of the involvement that you guys have done in the community. So it's a nice 1-2 punch with you too.
Thank you. Well, as far as, that story about Joe coming over right away, he can relate to being in a community where you don't know anybody and building a business. So when we moved to Helena, we knew each other. That was it. And we moved to Helena in spring of 2016. We had been married for 6 months. We had just found out we were pregnant.
Wow.
We were opening a business in the fall, and knew not a soul. And I was working remotely, so it's not like I was, plugged into a local business and meeting people that way. And so Joe has been in your shoes where you're new to town and you're trying to support your family and build your business and brand. And he did a lot of boots on the ground marketing and networking in those early years, still does, and because he enjoys it so much. He's such a people person. So it makes my job a little bit easier for that, but he's been there. Yeah, he's been in your shoes.
Yeah, I really appreciated it and still do appreciate his friendship. So so tell us about some of your strategies. This is, a good teaching moment for anybody who's in Helena, and then good for me to learn from you. So tell us some of your strategies when you're looking at how to market yourself here in Helena.
So one of the unique challenges that I face in this role is that, I've got this multi-billion-dollar brand behind me with, spokespeople like Caitlin Clark and all the NFL players and lots of money being pumped into the marketing machine through State Farm. But that corporate brand, while it's wonderful and I really, love that Caitlin Clark is a spokesperson now, things like that, it doesn't always resonate with the local person who comes into our office or who we drive by on the street or see in the grocery store. What that does, because it creates a lot of top of the funnel awareness and can get people's interest in those commercials that they can pay for on the NFL, during NFL games and NBA games. All of that is fantastic for creating brand awareness for the local agents. But then at a grassroots level, the local agency, we have to differentiate ourselves. There are other State Farm agents in this community and nearby and surrounding communities. And, customers can work with whoever they want. And we always tell people that. But we want, to attract a certain kind of customer, and we want to distinguish ourselves as a small local business, because we are all of the donations that we pump into the community is from our pocket. We could either pump that into the community or we could put it back into the business or into our own pockets to support the bottom line.
State Farm doesn't give you a marketing budget.
There's a couple little matching things. So for example, if we go to the home show, that's a lead generation event. And so if we spend $1,000, they'll give us $1,000.
Oh, cool.
Things like that, but it's
still,
not
you got to put your own money on the line.
Right. They don't give us a budget that's like, here's $60,000 to support and market your local agency. That doesn't happen.
Right.
So, just the expense of me in my position, there's very, very few State Farm agents have a dedicated marketing person. And so that was a risk that Joe took in bringing me on because, with sales, you can earn your keep. And then with service, you earn your keep by supporting those households. And so sales and service obviously go very close together because without one, there's not the other. With marketing, that's almost like a disposable expense because, how much do we need a person dedicated to making the Facebook post and managing the sponsorships and managing our brand. So that's something that Joe had to weigh. And then of course we decided, since I'm in this role, that it was going to be fruitful, and it has. There's a lot of components to a successful marketing strategy that a lot of agents just try to take on themselves. But for the most part, things get missed and they can't because they're running the business. They're meeting with customers. They're leading their team. And so I've been able to take a lot of that responsibility off of Joe's plate. So as far as strategies itself goes, I'm working on my next year's strategy, and I'm basically creating a Venn diagram. Then there's 3 pillars to the strategy that I want to focus on. 1, is it going to help increase customer retention? 2, is it going to generate community awareness? And 3, is there a give back element? And so a big part of our brand is being involved in the community and giving back. We sponsor so many organizations, and I think year to date we are over around, we're about $30,000 back into the community this year alone.
Dang.
And again,
good job.
That's all money that, like we choose what to do with that. And we've chosen that we want to invest in Helena and the organizations, the sports teams, the nonprofits, and we love where we live and we want to bolster this community as much as we can. There's definitely opportunities and events that happen where there's like a diamond level sponsor, a platinum level, and they're asking for $15,000. And I would love to be able to do that. But, you know, we are a small local business and we're not at that level, maybe someday. But yeah, we definitely do what we can.
That's great. Now, you mentioned, hey, I'm already working on 2024. Do you have a coach, or is this all just coming from your background in terms of formulating everything?
Right now, it's all coming from my background. I have signed with an agency who is going to do like an internal marketing strategy, just like soup to nuts, everything, just to really evaluate, just because it's hard to see the forest through the trees.
Yeah.
And I need a check and balance system.
Yeah.
And so this agency is going to just take a comb through and audit every single strategy and see what's the most effective and where I should be spending my time versus spending time elsewhere. So I'm looking forward to that because I've been in this role for a little over a year now. So I've done a full year's, last year I put together a strategy for all of 2023. And I, learned a lot and, had a lot of success. We had to kind of put the brakes on our marketing for one of the offices back in like August or September because we were just worried about, service, being able to provide the level of service that we always aim for and taking care of our customers.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah. And so, I had to pat myself on the back for that one.
Yeah.
There's so much coming in. But just all good things. And the strategy audit will be very helpful too. But for the most part, it's just me coming up with the ideas and executing on them.
Do you work out of the Helena location?
For the most part, I float. If I'm needed over in East Helena, I'm over in East Helena.
Okay, Whitney. Now, when you're looking at 2023, are there any projects in particular that stand out that you're particularly proud of?
Yes. So one that comes to mind right away is our grand opening event for our East Helena office.
That was fun.
Thank you. We opened in May and then our grand opening was in September. So I spent a lot of this summer prepping and getting that organized. And my grandmother actually passed away like 2 weeks before.
Oh,
and
sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And, timing with her funeral and this event coming up, I was just being a mom and a wife and all the other things, I was losing hair. And so down the stretch, I got really behind and really nervous. And Joe was worried that no one was going to come to the event. And then we ended up having about 300 people.
I was going to say, you had a packed house.
Over it was a few hours and people, not 300 altogether, but like coming and going. The food trucks ran out of food and the band played, is fantastic. It was a little windy that night, but for the most part, it was a really nice night. And there's a big bounce house. The wind was stressing me out. Yeah, setting up. The tablecloths were going all over. But I was very, very proud of that event and pulling it off and just the success that it was.
Well, just a quick interjection. I was sitting there looking around. You got live music. You got food trucks, Chris Starr was also on the podcast with Rockstar Barbecue. And then I met the folks at Habana 406.
Yep.
And anybody watching today, this week, we are going to have we're doing like our $100 giveaway that we do every week. That's going to be them next week. Well, I guess this will come out on Monday. So this week, as confusing as that was, but I was looking around and I just thought, you guys crushed this. Like there's such good energy. Your team was there.
Thanks.
And it was like, man, I got to learn how to do this sort of thing.
I tell you what, event planning, I love it, but I'm glad when the event's happening because there's, not much you can do from there. Yeah. Another project that we did for the second year in a row was have a weekly food truck throughout the summer.
yeah.
And since now we have the 2 locations, they just alternated. So the food truck would either be in East Helena or Helena. And I think we had like 6 or 7 different food trucks throughout the summer. They each got a turn in both cities. So I was really, I mean, it's not a huge lead generating event, but it's one that just like, they're the agency that, they're the insurance agency that has food trucks. It's one of those high level things. I mean, it's a busy year. We did a lot of like trade show sponsorships and golf tournament sponsorships. And I think one of the things I'm really proud of this year is there's just a lot of data tracking that happened that has never happened for the agency before. So I was able to work leads from those events more in a more systematic way and kind of help them through the sales funnel. And that's just never really happened at the office. Like, they go to an event and they're just also spread thin that, 3 months later they find the stack of lead cards and they make calls. But, to be most effective at that, you need to call them like within a day or two after the business day or two after the event to remind them, thank you so much for coming by our booth. And we hope you had a good time visiting with, such and such team member about such and such. And just wanted to call and see if you're interested in getting a quote or anything else we can help you with.
That's great. Yeah. Well, you do such a good job. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
If somebody wanted to become a customer, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you guys?
Well, they can call either office, Helena or East Helena. Do you want me to say the phone numbers?
Yeah.
So Helena's office is 406-443-0867 and East Helena's office is 406-502-1600.
And what are the fax numbers? Just kidding.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. You got a lot to balance with 2 locations.
Yeah. And maybe that should be at the top of my list for like proud accomplishments. So Joe's only the second agent in the entire state of Montana to have 2 books of business with State Farm. And so I'm really proud of him for that. But with that comes a whole unique set of marketing challenges and making sure people are aware of our East Helena location and communicating that to the masses. And it's not like I have a lot of people I can call and be like, hey, how did you do this? There are a few multi-office agents in other states. And so, I follow, and I think that would be a piece of advice. Like throughout my career, I've always thought it was a good idea to look at what people who think you're doing, people who are doing it successfully in your eyes, follow their socials and follow their company and just to see what tactics they're trying.
Right.
And so I've done a little bit of that, but it's not a one size fits all.
No.
I definitely had to customize that whole approach to Helena and East Helena.
Well, that's so neat. And I totally relate to that. You don't need to reinvent the wheel on everything. And find people who are doing what you want to be doing and either follow them or talk to them. A lot of times people, they've been working hard for years and they're proud of what they've accomplished. And then if they can find somebody to share some pieces of advice, a lot of people are happy to sit down and, have lunch or something like that.
Yeah. Or if they're not in the area, call them.
Yeah.
Google reviews are very, very important to us. All of the ones that we have out on our Google business listings are authentic, genuine reviews from people who've worked with our offices. And there's an agent down south, I don't remember where, they've got over 1,000 5-star reviews. And a lot of people aren't like, I'm going to review my insurance agent. And so I called them like, how did you do that? And they had some great feedback that I was able to take. And it was a simple 5-10 minute phone call, and they're happy to share because we're not competitors. Right. We're not licensed down in, South Carolina, wherever they were. Yeah.
You got to ask, right?
You do. Yeah. No harm in asking.
You can,
They say
good.
no, they say no.
Right. Yeah. Good. Well, Whitney, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and share your expertise.
You bet. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Helena Hustle Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for joining us. And we'll catch you in the next episode of the Helena Hustle Podcast.